Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present, eternal one? Where might I go to find you, exalted, hidden one? Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present, eternal one? Yah Sha'alti meit Adonai, Achad sha'alti otavakesh, Achad sha'alti meit Adonai, Achad sha'alti Otavakesh, Shivti, Shivti, Beveit Adonai, Shivti, Shivti, Kol Yemei Chayai, Shivti, Shivti.
Shabbat Shalom, welcome to our service at Herzl-Ner Tamid and for the wonderful celebration of the Bat Mitzvah of Hayden Slutzky. And to those of you who are in Canada, bienvenue. We begin our service on page 112. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Shabo Hayu Halvim Omrim Beveit Hamikdash Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat Tov L'Adonai Zimel. Ohod Yinuvim V'Seva Deshenim V'Rananim Yiyu Lehagik Yarshadonai Tzuri V'Lov L'Tabo. Page 120. Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid Aramim Chadonai Ki. Le'mahan Yizamach Kavov Lo Yidom Adonai Elohai Le'olam Odeka. Mourner's Kaddish, page 121. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bialma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chay dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha.
Baruchu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlomo Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Please rise for Baruch Shamar, page 122. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Baruch hu sefer Rishim. Yahachid chei halami melech mishabach mudar shamo gadol baruch ata Adonai melech molal batish bachot. Please be seated. We continue with Ashrei, page 136. Ashrei yoshvei vetecha od yalu chasela.
Ashrei ham shekach lo Hashem shadonai Elohav.
Tehilat Adonai deberpi v'rekabas arshem kodshol le'olam v'ahed v'hanachnu neverach yah me'ata v'yad olam. Hallelujah. Page 141. Hallelujah, 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 el bekodsho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, birki auzo. Hallelujah, 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 big vurotav. Hallelujah, Hallelu, Krov Gudlo. Hallelu, 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 Beteka Shofar. Hallelu, Hallelu, B'nei Vechinor. Hallelu, 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 Betov Umachol. Hallelu, Hallelu, B'mini Ve'ugav. Hallelu, 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 Tziltzale Shama. Hallelu, Hallelu, Tziltzale Trua. Kol hanchamate Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol hanshama te Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol hanshama te Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Amen v'Amen. Baruch Mitzvah. Uvaruch Shem Kavodo Leolam v'Yimaleh Kavodo et Kol Haaretz. Amen v'Amen. Nishmat, page 145. Nishmat Kol Chai Tivarech et Shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, ha'gadol b'chvot shemecha, ha'gibor lanetzach, v'hanora b'norotecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei rama v'nisa. We continue with Shochenad on page 147.
Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo.
Ve'efi yisharim tit halal, uvdivrei tzadikim tit barach, uvyoshon chasidim tit bromham, uvke'erev kedoshim tit kadash. Uvmachalot revivot amacha beit Yisrael. Lechodot, lechalel, leshabeach, lefaer, leromem, lechader, levarech, le'ale, ukales, al kol divrei shirot v'tishbechot, David ben Yishai, avdecha Mashichecha.
Please rise for Yishtabach, page 148.
Yishtabach she'imcha la'ad malkeinu. Brachot v'hodaot meta v'adolam, Baruch ata Adonai, el melech gadol batishbechot, el hahodaot Adon haniflaot, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך על חייך עולמי.
Amen.
Amen.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קראתי, ועל מיך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי עדך ובית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן.
Amen.
Amen. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל, ויתהלש מנקודשה בריחו.
בריחו.
לעילם ינקול ברכתה, ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה. דאמירם בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Vaed. Please be seated. We continue on 150.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Hakol yoducha v'hakol yishabechucha.
Yaakov Yom Ruach Kadosh Adonai Hagol Yotzer
Ein kerkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, ve'ein zulatecha malkeinu, lechayei ha'olam haba. Efes b'yotecha go'aleinu limot ha'meshiach, ve'ein do melech ha'moshienu, lidchiyat ha'metim.
Amen. Elodon 151.
El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim baruch umvorach b'fi kol neshama gadlo v'tuvo malei olam da'at udvuna sovev imoto hamigal achayot hakodesh v'nedar b'chavod acham yerkava zechudu mishor livnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lichnei chavodo Tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu yetzaram beda'at bevina uvchaskel koach udvura natan bachem lachiot moshalim bekerev tevel meleim ziv umpikim noga na'ez zivam bechol ha'olam Sameichim betzetam besasim bevoam osim be'eim haritzon konam Pa'er v'chavod notnim lishmo Tzahala v'rina lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh v'yizrach or ra'a v'hikin Tzorat halavana Shevach notnim lo Kol tziva'ah maharam Tiferet u'gedula Seraphim v'ofanim v'hayot hak Odash.
La'ela sheshavat mikol hama'asim Bayom hashvi'i tala v'yashav al kisei chevodo Tiveradat al yom hamenucha Titparach Mosheinu al shavach ma'asei yadecha V'al me'orei orsha'asita yifaru chasela
Page 153.
תתברך צורנו, מלכנו וגואלנו, בורא קדושים. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, יוצא משרתים אשר משרתיו כולם עומדים לו. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים באימה וביראת רצון קונם. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומעריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא, וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנעימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, מאופנים וחיות הקודש, מרעש גדול מתנשאים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם משבחים ויאמרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, לאל ברוך נעימות ייתנו, למלך החי וקיים זמירות יום ותשבחות ישמיעו. אור חדש.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהר לאורו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהר לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Ahava Rabbah, page 154.
Ahava Rabbah aftanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla gedola v'tera, chamalta aleinu, Avinu malkeinu, ba'avur avoteinu, shebarchu v'cha, Avinu malkeinu. Vatel amdem chukei chaim, kein techanenu utlamdenu, Avinu ha'av ha'rachaman, hamrachem rachem aleinu. V'tein belibenu lechavinu chaski lishmoa, lilmodu lilamed, lishmor v'lasot. Ukayam et kol divrei Talmud Torah b'achava. V'ha'er einenu b'toratecha, v'da'abek lebeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'eyached levaveinu le'achava u'lira et shamecha, v'lo nevosh le'olam ba'ed, v'lo nevosh le'olam ba'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanol rabbatachnu, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. Ve'haviheinu l'shalom ve'arba kanfot haaretz, ve'tolicheinu kol memiyut le'artzeinu, ki al po'al yeshudata, uvanu v'charta mikol ha'velashon, ve'ke'arabtanu l'shimcha chagadol, Sela, Sela be'emet, lechodot lecha, uyachedcha be'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'emo Yisrael be'ahava.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך ובדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בעיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
והיה שמו תשמעו.
מצוותיי אשר אנוכי מצווכם היום לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם. שמתם את זרעי ללבבכם יעשו.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ועשו לכם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף ותיות תכלת וחיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריכם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים לחיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
ויציב על כל השבוע. היה מת.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וכיסו נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת ורב חיים וקיימים נאמנים ונחמדים. Go Aleinu, go Elavotenu, Yotzreinu, Tor Yeshuatenu, Podenu Umatinu, Me'olam Shemecha, En Elohim Zulatecha, Ezra
Avotenu Atzahu Me'olam.
Magenu Shilim Ne'em Acharehem B'chol Tor Vador,
Tehilot la'el elyon baruch hu umvorach Moshe uvnei Yisrael lecha anu shira B'simcha rabah v'maruch hu laham Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot o seifele Shira chadasha shibchu geulim Leshimcha al sefat hayam Yacha kulam hodu V'chim lichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
We rise for the Amidah, which will begin on page 159.
Sur Yisrael, Plumab Ezra Yisrael, Uvdechin Umecha, Yehudav Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzivaot Shemo Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konecha Kol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei v'Nehem Lemon Shemo Be'achava. Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Uvoked Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaim Eitim Atah Rav Lechoshia. Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishnei Afar. Michamocha Ba'agaburot Umidomelach, Melech Memit Umechayeh Umatmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayecham heitim. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kem shem shmakdishim oto b'shmei marom, kakatu v'yad nevi'echa, v'kara ze'el ze v'yamar, Kadosh, 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 Etzva'ot Melokot. Az b'kol rahash gadol, adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol, minasim le'yumat zerafim, le'yumatam baruch yomeru, baruch kavod Adonai, mimkol mo. Mimkol mecha malkeinu tofia, v'tim lo chaleinu, ki mechakim anachnu lach. Metai tim loch be'et Zion, Metai tim loch be'et Zion, Bekara be'amenu, Bekara be'amenu, Le'olam ba'et tishkon. Tikadal v'tikadash, V'toch Yerushalayim ircha, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Ula netzach netzachim be'einenu, Tirana, Tirana machutecha, Kadavar ha'amor b'shirei uzecha. Al Yedei David, Al Yedei David, Al Yedei David, Meshiach tzidkecha, Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Etzion ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Nagid gad lecha, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Nagid gad lecha, Ula netzach netzachim, Kedushatecha nakdish, Kedushatecha nakdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol, gadol v'kadosh, gadol v'kadosh atah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
We remain standing for Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
Kadavi Kadash Mirabah.
Amen.
Amen.
Be'amadi Brakir, Tavia, Michute Bechai, Chonu Yomechonuchai, Edacho Beit Israel, Bagala, Vizman Karivim Ramin.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Le'almaya
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach.
Yibarach Vishabach Arvi Roman Vina, Savi Hadarvi Halavi Halashmeda Kudasha.
Brichu.
La'ilamin Kolbir Chatav Shira, Tatush Bechatav, Nechem Atada Amiram Bamavim Ramin.
Amen.
Tika Bot Soton, Uva Uthon de Horser Elka, Dam of Hundivishmayavim Ramin.
Amen.
Yeheshlama Rabbi Min Shemai, the Chai Emelena Velkos Alvim Ramin.
Amen.
O say Shalom Bimromav, Huya Aseh Shalom, Alena Velkos Alvim Ramin.
Amen.
Please be seated. We continue with the Torah service, page 168.
En Kemocha Elohim Adonai, En Kemaasecha, Ma'achutecha, Ma'achut, Ko'olamim, Umemshotecha, Bechol Dor Vador. Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Moch Leolam Va'ed. Adonai Od Le'amo Yitein, Adonai Yivarech Et Amo V'Shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avitzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad batachnu, melech el ram benisa adon olamim.
We rise as the ark is open.
Vayehi bin soa ha'adon vayom Moshe. Kuma Adonai vayafutsu oivecha v'nafsu v'sanacha v'panecha. Mission takes a Torah, Mission takes a Torah, Udevar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Layamo Yisrael V'Ikdusha.
Med Maria Madrich Gitrachia Trachia.
Beyana Rachitz, Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emar Tush Bechan. Beyana Rachitz, Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emar Tush Bechan. Yehera avaka hadamach, detiv ta'achli bi be'oraita, v'tashli mishalin delibi, v'liba dechol amach Yisrael, letavu chayim v'lishlam. Amen.
Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol.
Gadol Adonai iti unomem Shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו והשתחוו להר קדשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Please be seated. This Shabbat we chant Parashat Chukat, which you'll find in your Chumash on page 880, corresponding to Numbers chapter 19, verse 1. Call to the Torah for the first Aliyah is the president of our congregation. I was wondering where she was sitting. There she is, Elise Wagner. It's kind of hard when everybody's wearing a mask to identify who's who. And Hayden is going to be chanting this Aliyah.
ויעזור ויגמיו שילחו לך עושים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל הבו גודלנו תבולתורה תעמוד. חי דבורה בת יעקב ופסברנה הראשונה. ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הדבקים עליכם חיים כולכם היום. It's there.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayadaber Adonai al Moshe v'elach Aaron lemor. Zo chukat haTorah asher tzivah Adonai lemor. Daber bnei Israel vayechu elecha. Bara aduma temima asher ein bamu asher lo ala alecha untantem ota el Elazar hakohen vehotzi ota al michutz machana veshachat ota lefanav v'lakach Elazar hakohen mirama betzba'o Vehiza anochach pentei ochel moed mirama sheva pa'amim vesarav et hapara le'enav et urav et besarav et tamha al pirsha yisrov velakach hakohen et erez ve'zof usheni tolaat vehishlich el toch serafat hapara.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Stay there.
Today happens to be Elise's birthday, and so we're going to celebrate in the only way we know how with a Mishaberach and Yom Huledet Sameach.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם ויעקב, שרבקה רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את חיי דבורה בת יעקב ופסברנה, שעלתה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה ולכבוד השבת, ולכבוד הבת מצווה, לשם קודשו על כל החסד אשר גמלה ביום הולדתה עד היום הזה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמריה ויוסיף לה שנות חיים מלאים בריאות ואהבה, שלום ושלווה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיה עם כל ישראל אחיה, ונאמר Amen.
May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Elise, who has come for an aliyah to the Torah. May the Holy One protect her and bless her and her entire family. And may she especially be blessed on this day of birth. May God give success to all of her works, together with all our fellow Jews everywhere. And let us all say, Amen.
Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach. Happy birthday to you and many more.
Now, knowing Elise as I know Elise, it's emotional for her because we have celebrated her birthday, but it's also really emotional for her, and I could hear it in her voice, to be back here in the sanctuary on Shabbat, to get the added zechut, the added honor from the Slutzky family to be called to the Torah, and we rejoice with you.
Amen. Yeah. Find a place now.
Called for the second aliyah is Debbie Robbins. We're on page 881, Numbers chapter 19, verse 7.
Tamod Devorachaya Bat Zev Shoshana Shenit. Yeah. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu michol chamim v'natan lanu et torto. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'chibas begadav hakohen v'rachatz b'saro b'mayim v'achar yavo el chamachane v'tameh hakohen ad ha'arev v'hasoref otah yichabes begadav b'mayim v'rachatz b'saro b'mayim v'tameh ad ha'arev v'saf ish tachor Eit efer hapara v'chiniach michutz l'machaneh b'makom ta'achor v'chayata la'adat b'nei Yisrael l'mishmeret l'mei nidach
Chatati. Yeah.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayim lam natav v'tuchinu. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Tamod Sarivka bat Mordechai v'nishka shlishit.
Having the third aliyah is Sherry Katay. We're on page 881, Numbers chapter 19, verse 10.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'chi bes ha'osef et efer ha'para et begadav v'tameh at ha'arev v'hayata livnei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham lechukat olam hanogea b'amet lechol nefesh adam v'tameh shivat yamim Huit chatavo bayom hashlishi ubayom hashvi'i yidchar Im lo yidchata bayom hashlishi ubayom hashvi'i lo yidchar Kohanogea bemet nefesh Ha'adam asher yamut v'lo yidchata et mishkan Adonai timeh v'yichrata ha'nefesh ha'iv mi'Yisrael ki Meinida lo zorach alav tameh yiyeh ahod tuma'at tovo Zot haTorah Adam keyamu be'ochel Kol haba ha'ochel v'chol asher b'ochel Yidma shivat yamim V'chol keli fatuach Asher ein samid patil alav tamechu V'chol asher yiga al penai hasadeh V'chal acherav ova med Ova etzem Adam ova kaver Yidma shevat yamim v'lachu letameh me'afar serafa hatat v'natan alav mayim chayim
El Kelly, yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Called for the fourth Aliyah are Hayden's grandparents, Larry and Wendy Kahn. We're on page 883, Numbers 19, verse 18.
Yamod leboiser ben Menachem Mendel v'chana tamod Zahava bat Yaakov etel shrivi'i.
Jamie Slutzky is going to chant the Aliyah.
Watch your step.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'harbanu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'lakach ezov v'tavel b'mayim ish tahor v'hiza al ha'ochel ve'al kol ha'kelim ve'al hanfashot asher hayusham ve'al hanogea ba'etzem ov ha'chalal ov ha'met ov ha'kaver Vehiza hatahor al hatameh bayom hashlishi ubayom hashvi'i vechito bayom hashvi'i vechibes begadav verachetz bamayim vetacher ba'arev va'ish asher yitma velo yitchata Nichratahan nefesh hahu hahiv mitoch hakachal He et mikdash Adonai time mehanida lo zorak alav tamehu v'haita lachem lechukat olam umazeh mehanida v'chibes begadav v'hanoga Mehanida yitma ad ha'arev v'chol asher yigabo v'tameh yitma hanefesh hanoga titma ad ha'arev.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayeh olam natah b'doheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. Michael Tischler will be chanting and having the fifth Aliyah. We're on page 883, Numbers chapter 20, verse 1.
יעמוד מיכאל בן משה ופרידה חמישי.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
ויבואו בני ישראל כל העדה המתפרצים בחודש הראשון, וישב העם בקדש, ותעמוד שם מרים ותיקבר שם, ולא היה מים לעדה, ויקהלו על משה ועל אהרון, וירב העם עם משה, ויאמרו לאמור, ולו גבנו בקבוע אחינו לפני אדוני, ולמה הבאתם את קהל אדוני אל המדבר הזה, למות שם אנחנו ובעירנו, ולמה העליתונו ממצרים להביא אותנו אל המקום הרעה הזה, לא מקום זה רעות עינה וגפן ברימון ומים אין לשתות. ויבוא משה ואהרון מפני הקהל אל פתח אוהל מועד, ויפלו על פניהם, וירא כבוד אדוני עליהם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Michael continues by having and chanting the sixth Aliyah. We're on page 884, Numbers chapter 20, verse 7.
יעמוד מיכאל בן משה ופרידה שישי.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם
ברוך
ועד.
אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, קח את חמתה וקהל את העדה, אתה ואהרון אחיך, ודיברתם אל הסלע לעיניהם, ונתן מימיו, והוצאת לכם מים מן הסלע, והשקית את העדה ואת בירם. ויקח משה את מטה מלפני אדוני כאשר ציווהו, ויקהילו משה ואהרון את הקהל אל פני הסלע, ויאמר להם, שמונה המורים המן הסלע הזה, נוציא לכם מים. וירם משה את ידו, ויח את הסלע במטהו פעמיים, ויוצאו מים רבים, ותשת העדה ובעירם, ויאמר אדוני אל משה ולאהרון, ין לא האמנתם בי להקדישני לעיני בני ישראל, לכן לא תביאו את הקהל הזה אל הארץ אשר נתתי להם, המה מי מריבה אשר רבו בני ישראל את אדוני, ויקדש בם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Hayden's parents, Sam and Jamie, have the 7th Aliyah. We're on page 886, Numbers chapter 20, verse 14.
Ya'amod Shmuel Nata ben Ruven Lev V'dana Leah Ta'amod Chana bat Lev Oyser Uzahava Shvi'ich Yizku.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Hanemrach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayishlach Moshe malachim mikadesh el melech Edom ko amar achicha Yisrael ata ayadata et kohala asher mitzatenu vayerdu avotenu mitzrayim v'nashev b'mitzrayim yamim rabim vayereu lanu mitzrayim v'la'avotenu Vanitzach el Adonai vayishma koleinu vayishlach malach vayotzienu mimitzrayim v'hine anach v'kadesh ir kitzagvulecha nebra naviratzecha lo na'avor misadeh uvcherem v'lo nishteh miva'er derech hamelch nelech lo niteh yamin u'smol ad asher na'avor gevulecha vayomer emtav edom lo ta'avor bi pen b'cherev etzel likratecha vayomeru elav b'nei Yisrael bamsila na'aleh v'imei mecha nishteh ani u'miknai v'natati michram rak ein davar b'rach evora Vayomer lo ta'avor vayetze edom likrato va'am kaved uvyachazaka vayamain edom naton Yisrael avor bigvulo vayehi Yisrael ma'alav. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We pause for a moment to think of those who are ill when Cantor Curlin pauses during the Mishaberach. You may, especially those of you at home, think of that person's Hebrew or English name.
Shebeirach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarif Karachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech Et HaCholim Et v'et Esther bat Sultana, v'et Michaela Tzipora bat Chaya Tova, v'et Miriam bat Charlotte, v'et Chaya Gittel bat Sarah, v'et Gittel bat Chernia, v'et Marguerite bat Arlene, v'et Malchusima bat Miriam, v'et Leahensia bat Miriam, v'et Yosef ben Dana, v'et Shalom ben Gish, v'et Perel bat Sima, v'et Eitan ben Ahuva, v'et Gittel bat Sarah, v'et Gittel bat Bracha, v'et Donna Bracken, v'et Steve Gross, v'et Velvel ben Hinda Bela, v'et Yerachmiel Mordechai ben Lillian Bob Saratkin, v'et Yocheved bat Sarafega, v'et Moshe Wolf ben Sarah, v'et Eitan ben Ahuva, v'et Kol Chol Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alayim L'chazik L'rapotam V'yishlach Lahem Meheru Refuah Shlem Refuah Tanefesh V'yat Aguf L'chol Averim Yidam B'toch Shar Chol Yisrael V'nomar Amen.
We wish them all a refuah shlema, a full and speedy recovery. Please rise for Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal V'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'alma Divara Kirutei Amlich Malchutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uv'izman Kariv V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Alal Me'al Maya Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitvar, Yishromam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei Dekudsha,
Brichu,
Brichu Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tush bechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imru amen.
Amen. Please be seated. We now call our bat mitzvah, Hayden, for the Maftir Aliyah, page 892, Numbers, chapter 21, verse 34.
Tamod, 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 Habachura habat mitzvah, Aviva bat Shmuel data v'chana, Maftirach izki. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, Ve'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe al tira'oto, ki v'yadcha natati oto, ve'kol amo ve'artso v'asita lo, ka'asher asita lesichon melech ha'emori asher yoshev b'chashbon. Vayaku oto ve'banav ve'kol amo, abilti hishir lo, sarid v'yershu et artso. Vayisu b'nei Yisrael, vayachanu ba'arvot Moav, me'ever le'ardein Yerecho. Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mi sheberach avotenu Avram Yaakov, Sorivka Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech et habat mitzvah, et aviva bat Shmuel Nata v'Chana, shehigia lemitzvot v'alta laTorah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmereha v'chayeha v'chonen et libah. להיות שלם עם אדוני אלוהיה, להגות בתורתו, ללכת בדרכיו ולשמור מצוותיו, ותמצא חן ושכל טוב בעיני אלוהים ואדם, ונאמר אמן.
Hayden. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you who have come for an aliyah upon reaching the age of mitzvot. May the Holy One guard you and sustain you, helping you to be wholehearted in your faith, studying God's Torah, walking in God's ways, and fulfilling God's mitzvot. May you find favor before God and our community, and let us all say, Amen.
Simen tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, simen tovu, mazel tovu, simen tovu, simen tovu, mazel tovu, simen tovu, yehi lanu. Yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehi lanu, ulechol Yisrael.
Mazel tov.
Okay. Hayden, while many would say that I didn't do a lot this past year, that certainly hasn't been the case for you. I'm so proud of the time and effort you put into all aspects of your life. From gymnastics in multiple cities, to starting middle school, to baking and making your own lunches, to learning how to take care of a new puppy, to the preparation you've put into this point in your bat mitzvah journey. Each of these efforts I've watched you practice over and over, striving for perfection, and sometimes getting frustrated even the smallest mistake because you care so much. I also know how happy we both are that things have improved and you're able to have some of your close friends and family attend that special occasion in person. Please also keep in mind how many others are watching you online and supporting you, and know that we're all here for you not just today, but every day. You've taken on a massive Torah portion, and I was never worried, as you've shown your mastery of the material time and time again. Once more, I just want to say how truly proud I am of you for all the work you put in and continue to put in, not just for your bat mitzvah, but for all areas of your life. Mazel tov, Hayden.
Hayden, you know who you are and what you want. And today we have witnessed how you have made your bat mitzvah something unique and special. We spend a lot of time together in the car to and from gymnastics. It's our time and I treasure it. Whether you're reading me a book or a series of books, or we're talking to Bubby or Auntie Tammy on Bluetooth, listening to a podcast, or just connecting, it's time I thoroughly enjoy. And when we do that merge from 405 to 520 on our way home, you have been really good at recognizing when I agree with the way the other cars like to merge. It's not just in the car where our relationship has grown. It's been at home over the past year. You are so creative, and I love to watch your visions come through the many, many art projects you complete. This appreciation of you and all of your hard work today wouldn't be complete without mentioning gymnastics. I am so proud of everything you've done in this sport, especially over the past 2 years. From our experience in Branson, Missouri, to earning that 9.8 in Texas, and from asking to return to Gym East just a few months ago,
to enjoy working on bars for the first time in your life. Like I said at the beginning, you know who you are and what you want. We are here to support you and all of your goals. I love you so much. I am so proud of the work you put into your bat mitzvah and making today truly special. Mazel tov.
Hayden, we are all supportive judges this morning. And speaking on behalf of everyone, you scored a 10. You did the equivalent of a triple back on the bima. And we are really, really proud of you. On your kippah is this silhouetted figure. And it's actually a silhouette of you taken during a time when you were competing in the floor exercise. And I love the melding of two important parts of your life: gymnastics and Judaism. And what I want to say to you this morning is that our hope and our dream for you is that those two elements of your life that are really the core of you, who you are, that they will every day, not just today, but every day after today, they will continue to be among the most important things in your life. You know that there's no way that you can vault, or you can do floor, or you can do uneven bars, or beam without practicing, right? If you were to do any of those events without ever practicing and working out, you would flop, right? Inevitably, something would happen. You'd miss a hold, you'd slip, you'd miss that tumble, and you wouldn't score a 10. The same holds true for many other things in life, including what you're doing right now, including being a really serious, engaged Jew. You had to practice, and you practiced, and you practiced, and you practiced everything. And you did it exceptionally well because you worked hard at it. You took it seriously, just like you take your gymnastics seriously. That's something I wish every member of the Jewish community would do. Because when we do that, then we really do find incredible meaning in our tradition. And we don't feel like it's foreign to us. And if we don't feel it's foreign to us, then we're more likely than not to make it a really important part of our life. Your mom isn't a hockey mom. She's a gymnastics mom. And your mom and dad together have supported you and made such sacrifices for you so that you could be the gymnast you are. And they have also done so much to support you so that you could do what you did here today. Don't forget that they're always there rooting you on, just like the rest of your family and your friends. And now your community as well is going to root for you so that you continue to be a very proud member of the Jewish community and a very engaged member of our congregation. So Mazal Tov on an exceptional, exceptional job and achievement this morning. The other day, we gave you a bag filled with gifts, a certificate, and a yad, which you used this morning, and many others. We hope that you will use them often at every opportunity. Mazal Tov. We're now going to rise as the Torah is lifted and bound. Ya'amod, Hamad B'Yevahago, let it Sefer Torah.
זאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, כי אדוני יד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר. Shalom, shalom, clap, 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 clap. Shalom, shalom, clap, 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 clap. Shalom, 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 shalom. Eitzcha, shalom, 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 shalom. Shalom, 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 shalom. Todah.
Please be seated. Before she chants the Haftarah, which you can turn to now, on page 910, Judges chapter 11, verse 1, Hayden is going to share her Devar Torah with us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you've all had an easier time staying in your seat than I have. I told my mom weeks before my bat mitzvah that I would have very sore calves by the end of this because I would do so many heel raises to keep me moving. I must say, I am doing better than I expected. Now, let's talk about what we read from the Torah. Let's jump back a few months ago, when me and my sister were working on my Devar Torah. She asked me what my parsha was about. My answer was, it's about touching or encountering a dead body, and then having to do a very long and complicated ritual about burning and killing red cows and bathing to become pure again so you can make sacrifices? Basically, we had no idea where to start, because in this day and age, it seems insane. However, most would argue that saying for 2 years of your life you'd be stuck in your house is insane too. Funny enough, the pandemic has helped me understand my parsha a little better. A ritual, like the ritual of the red heifer, is a set of rules that the Israelites were supposed to follow. In the pandemic, we have been given guidelines and have been advised what to do, almost like our own modern ritual. When you don't follow these rules, there are consequences, like potentially spreading or becoming exposed to coronavirus, which takes me to another part of my parsha, the passage about Moses and the rock. Not following the guidelines of the pandemic caused you to have to quarantine. And when you quarantine, you can't go places. This is like Moses not listening to God about asking the rock for water and hitting it instead. He had to quarantine for 40 years and couldn't go into the promised land. But was it really the one small thing of hitting a rock instead of talking to it that made it so he couldn't enter the promised land? I do not think so. I have 2 explanations. The first is mine. My explanation of why he was not allowed inside was that he had not listened to God. This leads me to another question. If he trusted God to get them out of Egypt, why did he not trust God to give them water? God seemed to trust Moses, similar to how my parents trust me. I have been asking for a puppy for a very long time, and now they finally trust me to take care of the dog. But if I were to break their trust and let little Mr. Reno run away, I would betray their trust just like Moses did to God. I believe he was not allowed into the promised land because the trust was broken, and God no longer wanted Moses to be the leader of his people. The second explanation comes from the resources I was given. Maimonides said something quite interesting about why Moses may have hit the rock. The text states, Moses Maimonides claims that God punishes Moses because of his exasperation with the complaints and quarreling of the Israelites. Extreme anger is his downfall. Intelligence and impatience condemn him. Instead of remaining even-tempered, Moses flies into rage. He insults the people by calling them rebels. In doing so, he fails as a leader and as a model for their own behavior. Whereas I talk about trust, this talks about anger and frustration, things we have all experienced a lot during this pandemic. This allowed me to see where he is coming from. During the pandemic, we don't know, and still don't know, when things will go back to normal. It is frustrating, much like how the Israelites were frustrated that they left Egypt to be stranded in a desert. In their frustration, they did not believe in Moses. They had listened once, and it brought them to a desert with no water. Why should they let themselves get their hopes up, only to be brought into another bad situation, getting no water from this rock? They did not believe in Moses, and if they did not listen to him, God could not help his people through this leader anymore, meaning it was time for a new leader. So God had the Israelites wander in the desert for 40 years. So when the time came for the people to enter the promised land, Moses and Aaron would pass, allowing a new leader, Joshua, to arise as the Israelites start a new life in the land of Israel. Now, let's get real. I think Moses needed to use his manners when he was supposed to talk to the rock. And I need to in speaking to all of you, specifically thank yous. I do not think I would have gotten this far without all of you. To start, I would like to thank Cantor. He helped me a lot and pushed me to continue to learn more prayers and Torah, even when I could have been done almost 8 months early. I am so glad he did, and now I will have the honor of reading Parshat Parah sometime in the coming years now that I know it. Next, I would like to thank Rabbi. He knows so much about the Torah, the ancient Israelites, and surprisingly, the ritual of the red heifer. But most of all, I would like to thank him for quickly removing the word funly from my Devar Torah. Oops, I guess it ended up in there. Moving on to my mom. Wow, I would not be here without her. At times, I would get very stressed about my bat mitzvah, and she was always right there to tell me, I got this, and to remind me there is nothing to be worried about. She listened to hours and hours of me practicing because I would not be alone even when just singing in Hebrew. And my mom never complained, and I want to give her a big thank you. Thank you to my dad. Though he wasn't as involved as others, he was great. He reminded me the need to practice and especially work on my Devar Torah. And whenever he came downstairs while I was doing a prayer, he quickly stopped talking and let me finish. It might not seem like much, but it showed me that he cares, and that means everything. Thank you, Cameron. You are the best sister in the world. Sometimes I forget how much you did for me, but now I would like to remind myself, and thank you for teaching me nearly every prayer I know. You helped make things chill, and you never turned down sitting down quietly on your phone, pretending to listen to me practice, and I cannot seem to figure out why. Next, I would like to thank my amazing teacher and tutor, Maura Sherry Kate. She, like Cameron, taught me many prayers, and she taught me Torah trope, which allowed me to do all the many Torah portions I did today. She is so devoted, and if she had not taught me, I would have had a very different bar mitzvah experience, so thank you. Thank you to Eliyahu. Thank you to my grandparents for coming to watch me. Thank you to everyone who's here and everyone who is watching virtually. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Wait, not yet. $910.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'imvim tovim v'ratza v'direihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'imvi'eh ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Yiftach hagiladi haya gibor chayil vehu ben isha zona vayola gilad et yiftach vateilet isha gilad lo banim vaydalu ben haisha v'garshu et yiftach vayomeru lo tincha b'veit avinu ki ben isha acheret ata. ויברח יפתח מפני אחיו, וישב בארץ טוב. וילקטו אל יפתח אנשים ריקים, ויצאו עמו. ויהי מימים, וילחמו בני עמון עם ישראל. ויהי כאשר נלחמו בני עמון עם ישראל. וילכו זקני גלעד לקחת את יפתח מארץ טוב. ויאמרו ליפתח לך והיית לנו לקצין ונלחמה בבני עמון. ויאמר יפתח לזקני גלעד, הלא אתם שנאתם אותי וגרשוני מבית אבי, ומדוע באתם אלי עתה כאשר צר לכם? ויאמרו זקני גלעד אל יפתח, לכן עתה שבנו אליך, והלכת עמנו ונלחמת בבני עמון, והיית לנו לראש לכל יושבי גלעד. ויאמר יפתח אל זקני גלעד, אם משיבים אתם אותי להילחם בבני עמון, ונתן אדוני אותם לפני, אנוכי אהיה לכם לראש. ויאמרו זקני גלעד אל יפתח, אדוני יהיה שומע בנותינו אם לא יברך כן נעשה. וילך יפתח עם זקני גלעד, וישימו העם אותו עליהם לראש ולקצין. וידבר יפתח את כל דבריו לפני אדוני במצפה. וישלח יפתח מלאכים אל מלך בני עמון לאמור, מעליב עליך כי באת אלי להם בארצי. ויאמר מלך בני עמון אל מלאכי יפתח, כי לקח ישראל את ארצי בעלותו ממצרים, מארנון ועד היבוק ועד הירדן, ועתה השיבה אתהן בשלום. ויוסף עוד יפתח, וישלח מלאכים אל מלך בני עמון. ויאמר לו, כה אמר יפתח, לא לקח ישראל את ארץ מואב ואת ארץ בני עמון, כי בעלותם ממצרים. וילך ישראל במדבר עד ים סוף, ויבוא קדשה. וישלח ישראל מלאכים אל מלך אדום לאמור, אברא נא בארצך, ולא שמע מלך אדום, וגם אל מלך מואב שלח ולא עבר. וישב ישראל בקדש. וילך במדבר, ויעזוב את ארץ אדום ואת ארץ מואב, ויבוא ממזרח שמש לארץ מואב, ויחנון בעבר ארנון, ולא באו בגבול מואב, כי ארנון גבול מואב. וישלח ישראל מלאכים אל סיחון מלך אמורי מלך חשבון. ויאמר לו ישראל, נברא נא בארצך עד מקומי. ולא האמין סיחון ישראל עבור בגבולו, ויעשו שיחו לכל עמו, ויחנו ויעצה, וילחם עם ישראל. ויתן אדוני אלוהי ישראל את שיחון וכל עמו, ויד ישראל ויקום. וירש ישראל את כל ארץ האמורי, יושב הארץ ההיא. וירשו את כל גבול האמורי, מארנון ועד היבוק, ומן המדבר ועד הירדן. ואתה אדוני אלוהי ישראל, הוריש את האמורי מפני עמון ישראל, ואתה תירשנו. הלא את אשר יורישך, כמו שלוחך אותו תירש, ואת כל אשר הוריש אדוני אלוהינו מפנינו אותו נירש. ואתה הטוב טוב אתה מבלק בן ציפור מלך מואב, הרוב רב עם ישראל, אם נלחם בעם. ושבט ישראל בחשבון ובבנותיך, ובאור ובבנותיך, ובכל הערים אשר על ידי ארנון 300 שנה. ומדוע לא הצלתם בעת ההיא? ואנוכי לא הצעתי לך, ואתה עושה איתי רעה, לכי לכם בי. ישפוט אדוני השפט היום בין בני ישראל ובין בני עמון. ולא שמע מלך בני עמון על דברי יפתח אשר שלח אליו. ותהי על יפתח רוח אדוני, ויעבור את הגלעד ואת מנשה, ויעבור את מצפה גלעד, וממצפה גלעד עבר בני עמון. וידע יפתח נדר לאדוני ויאמר, אם נתון תיתן את בני עמון בידי. והיה היוצא אשר יצא מדלתי ביתי לקראתי, ושובי ושלום מבני עמון. והיה אדוני ואהליתיהו עולה. ויעבור יפתח על בני עמון לכי לכם בם, ויתנם אדוני בידו. ויקם הרוער ועד בואך מינית 20 עיר, ועד אבל כרמים מכה גדולה מאוד. ויקנו בני עמון מפני בני ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ויעשה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך לא ישוב ריקם, כי על מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך שמו.
האל הנאמן בכל דבריו.
אמן.
רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, ולעלובש נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך שמו.
משמח ציון בבניך.
אמן.
שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך. במהרה יבוא ויגיל ליבנו. על כיסאו לא ישב זר, ולא יכלו עד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכפה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך שמו.
מגן דוד.
אמן.
Al HaTorah, Al Havodah, Al Hanvi'im, Al Yom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shinat Lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Likdu Shavlim Nucha, Lechavod Ultifaret. Al HaKol, Adonai Eloheinu, Anachim Modim Lach, Umbarchim Otach, Yibarach Shimcha, V'fi Kol Chai Tami Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai.
Baruch Shmo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Yasher Koach.
Good gehaftarad and good geleint.
We continue our service as we turn to page 181 for Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yehalelu chasela, Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav, Tila leDavid, aro mimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed, b'chol yom avaracheka, v'ala shimcha leolam va'ed. Tilat Adonai yidaber pi vivarech kol basar shem kodsho leolam va'ed v'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata v'ad olam hallelujah.
Please rise.
Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren leyamo, tila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid. Havu Adonai b'nei, havu Adonai kavros. Vayechesov yarot, uvehechalo kulo merkavod. Adonai lamabul yashav vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz li'amo yiten. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Uvenucho yomar. Shalom. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Last night, Michael Tarlow put me on the hook because he said to the congregation at the end of the service, be sure you don't want to miss tomorrow morning. Make sure you log on to the right streaming platform because Hayden is going to do just a tremendous job. And by the way, Remember what Rabbi Herber said in his weekly video message? Show up for services on Shabbat morning and you'll find out perhaps an answer to what I talked about in the message. I emphasize the word perhaps, leaving me with a bit of an out just in case I wanted to talk about something else. But since he shared that really great announcement about what I would be talking about this morning, I felt committed. So, Michael, this one's for you. Zot chukat haTorah. This is the chok of the Torah. And the Torah goes on to speak in detail about the chok, the statute related to the para adumah, the red heifer. If one came in contact with a dead body and became ritually impure, as Hayden had said earlier in her Devar Torah, that would preclude that person from being in the sanctuary or the temple to offer a sacrifice. You can only do that in a state of ritual purity. And so you'd have to undergo a ritual. You would have to be in quarantine for a week. You'd have to wash, and then the high priest would take a red heifer without blemish, burn it, take the ashes, mix it with hyssop and other ingredients, and then after having that sort of like splattered on you, you would then be in a state of ritual purity. And what is so enigmatic about this ritual is that the person making this water of lustration, this remedy for someone who's become ritually impure, that person himself becomes ritually impure. It's a paradox, an enigma. How is it that which makes one impure makes another person pure because that person has also become impure? So it's a chok, it's a statute. And there are two types of mitzvot, two types of commandments in the Torah. One set are called mishpatim, ordinances, and others are called chukim, statutes. The former are readily understandable. You shall not steal. You shall not commit murder. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. It's quite obvious and evident why one should do these mitzvot. Chukim, on the other hand, are enigmatic. They're puzzling. They don't seem to have any rational basis. You shall not boil a calf in its mother's milk. You shall not wear a garment made of linen and wool. The Torah doesn't give us any reason why we are to do or not to do these things. There doesn't seem to be any rational reason for them. And the para adumah is a perfect example of the latter, of a mitzvah in that category of chukim. Pesikta Rav Kahana, one of the great midrashic works of Judaism, recounts a story where a pagan is watching the ritual of the para adumah being performed. And he turns to Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the greatest of our sages, and he says to Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, I'm totally confused. This seems like a ritual of sorcery, and your own Torah prohibits sorcery. Explain to me, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, what's going on here? To which the sage says, this is actually a rite that's performed when someone has been overcome by an evil spirit. It's a ritual of exorcism. The pagan seems like this answer rings true to him, and he walks away. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's students who are there observing and listening to this, they are aghast. And they say to him, Rabbi, our teacher, the answer that you just gave to that pagan, it's like sending somebody off, beating them with nothing more than a piece of straw. In other words, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, your explanation does not stand up to scrutiny. You could get away with telling him that, but we know better. To which Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai says to his students, by your lives a corpse does not make impure, and water does not purify. Rather, this is the decree of the Holy One. Blessed be he. Said the Holy One, I have set it down as a statute, a chok. I have made it a decree, and you are not at liberty to transgress my decree. This is the statute of the Torah. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's retort is unequivocal. This is what God commands. It is our obligation to follow it. That is enough for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. But it's really not enough for the Sefer HaChinuch, who writes, even though my heart has given me the gumption to write hints of the simple reasons for the previous commandments, with the excuse that this work is to instruct my son and his young friends, may God protect them, on this commandment, the chok of the Para Aduma. My hands are weak, and I am afraid to open my mouth about it at all. The Sefer HaChinuch, a much later teacher of Torah, is puzzled about this commandment and doesn't know what to make of it, how to understand it, and even how to teach it to others. Why? Because I have seen that our rabbis, may their memory be blessed, spoke at length regarding the depth of its secret and greatness of its content, to the point that they said that King Solomon was able through his great wisdom to understand all the reasons of the Torah except for this one. As he stated in Ecclesiastes, I have said that I will understand, but it is far from me. They also said in Midrash Tanchuma, Rabbi Yossi Berebi Chanina says, the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moses, to you I will reveal the reason for the red heifer, but not to others. The Sefer HaChinuch, this great teacher of Torah, of Jewish wisdom, is stumped. And all he can do is also subscribe to the notion that there are things that we have no idea why they exist, why we should follow them, except for the fact that God said we should follow them. We live in a time of profound and remarkable uncertainty and doubt. We live in a time of enormous political, economic, and social upheaval. We live in a time of pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. Thank God, Hayden's grandparents could be here, that they could leave their home in Canada and come here. And hopefully, the pandemic in Canada will be resolved so that there won't be any question or any problem with people crossing one way or the other on our northern border. All of this makes us feel so uncomfortable so unsure. It's shaken us to our core. There are so many of us who don't trust what our government says. There are so many of us who don't trust what our media says. There are so many of us who don't trust what our doctors and scientists say. We harbor uncertainty about fundamental things like democracy, science, economic systems, what the truth is and what the truth isn't. When we are doubtful, we suffer from cognitive dissonance. We see a reality and we feel there's something wrong because that reality doesn't match what we believe. In 1994, every Ranger fan knew why we defeated the Vancouver Canucks in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. We had Mark Messier, and Vancouver had Trevor Linden. There is no doubt why that outcome was what it was. For you Canuck fans, you just have to say to yourself, in an age of uncertainty, we just have to go along with what the Ribono Shel Olam lets happen and doesn't let happen. But on a more serious note, when we have cognitive dissonance, we will look and we will latch on to anything that will give us comfort and enable us to feel we have stability, to be grounded, because so much of everything around us and what we believed in seems to be under assault. We feel like we've lost control, that the world is spinning and we don't know what to do. So what do? What do some of us do? We look for easy answers. We subscribe to conspiracies. And that helps us cope with the tumult, the loss, the fear, the anxiety, and it gives us a sense of certainty. I'll give you a really good example of this. In the 1920s and the 1930s, following World War I, Germany felt the heavy weight of onerous reparations paid to the Allied nations. Inflation was going through the roof. You didn't have big enough wheelbarrows to carry money with you to go to the store to buy a liter of milk. High unemployment, high inflation, so much uncertainty, so much doubt, so much lack of faith in the country's leaders. So what did people do? They turned to a house painter who gave them easy answers and who said, you know why we have this problem? You know why Germany is where Germany is? Because there are vermin among us. They're called Jews. They are at the root of all of our problems. And all we have to do is get rid of them. And then Germany will return to greatness. And a whole nation went along with it. He was charismatic. He had easy, simple answers. And they gave them a sense of certainty in a time of great doubt. Living in gray oftentimes is far more meaningful than living in a world of black and white, in a world of easy answers, because when you live in gray, it forces you to think long and hard and seriously and substantively about how to right wrongs, about how to fix that which is broken. In his Mishnah Torah, Rambam Maimonides says, "It is appropriate for a person to meditate on the judgments of the Holy Torah and know their ultimate purpose according to his capacity. If he cannot find a reason or a motivating rationale for a practice, he should not regard it lightly. Nor should he break through to ascend to God, lest God burst forth against him. One's thoughts concerning them should not be like his thoughts concerning other ordinary matters. Think long and hard. Think seriously. He should not conjure up matters that are not true concerning God, nor should he think about them with his mind as he would ordinary matters. For Leviticus chapter 19, verse 37 states, "And you shall guard all my decrees and all my judgments and perform them." Our sages commented, "This adjures us to guard and perform both the decrees, the mishpatim, and the judgments, the chukim. The meaning of performing is well known, that one should observe the decrees. Guarding means to treat them with caution and not think that they are any less than the judgments." You know the para aduma, that ritual? It only happened 9 times, according to our sages. Once by Moses, once under the leadership of Ezra, and 7 times after that. Only 9 times. Now, there must have been more than 9 people who came in contact with a corpse and needed to get ritually pure again. But our sages said it only happened 9 times and no more than that. This ritual that allowed people to participate in, at the time, the only form of worship, the sacrificial system. And yet, our people somehow managed to live without it after the practice had been long abandoned. You would think that it would cause such uncertainty and doubt and travail and concern. Think about how we feel about not being able to be in this sanctuary for over a year. So the people, whether they forgot how to do it or they could never ever again find a red heifer, they dealt with the uncertainty and they moved on. Rambam also says, accept the truth from wherever it comes. For him, it meant accepting Aristotle, the greatest philosopher of the Hellenistic period. Aristotle was as much his Torah as the Torah itself. Although he says, if there's a conflict between Aristotle and Torah, Torah wins out. And yet he kind of plays tongue-in-cheek with that too. When we hear and we see things, and we are surrounded by the chaos of the world, and we say, that doesn't fit with how I think, it's wrong then, let's hear Rambam in our ear. And perhaps say to ourselves, just because I think something, it doesn't mean that it's the only thing that's true. That will prevent us from going down a very troubling and at times very dangerous path. And instead, It'll lead us straight, hopefully, to the path of truth. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We continue with our COVID-19 abbreviated service as we rise for Aleinu on page 205.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teked la'leotzer brishit, shelo asanu kiyei haratzot, velo samhanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kachem, begor aleinu chechol hamonam, ve'anachnu
קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Shachunot Shamayim Yoser Haaretz Umoshe Yikaro Bashamayim Ima'al Ushchinat Uzo Begar Hu Eloheinu E'enon Emet Malkeinu
Echesulato, Kakatu, the Torato, Yadakta Hayom, Behoshevota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai, Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Mima'al, Ve'al haaretz, mitachat, Einod, Al
תקנו עולם המלכות שדי וכל בני בשרי קורו ישמך להפנות אל המלכות.
Hakatu b'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
Please be seated. The coming week, we will observe the following yortzites: Moshe Ashkenazi, Mike Baker, Bertha Koretz, Susan Paramut, Ruth Schocken, Joan Winters, Simon Applebaum, David Bunov, Leon Cohen, Sam Gladstein, Edward Hirschberg, Abraham Kuznets, Kay Adam, Abraham Bookman, Carol Davis, Frida Katz, Leopold Kirschbaum, Mike Niddle, Shmuel Litov, Frida Mallon, Yaveda Stambor, Ernst Windmiller, Jenny Esfeld, Ruth Hope, Ina Wilner, Ben Edelstein, Bessie Feynman, Lawrence Ginsberg, Bernard Goldstein, Irving Shear, Cecilia Solomon, Rose Youngson, Sarah Aon, Samuel Ben-Sion, Larry Harrison, Irving Klachuk, Harold Lustig, Adeline Meisner, Bernice Stern, Lou Young, Rebecca Israel, Toby Katz, Betty Kelman, Rose Kuznets, Ray Lipman, Mark Sigmund, Ruth Sonkin, Sarah Ushkanazkaya. And we also observe the yortzeit of Private First Class Irving Glickstein of the United States Army, who entered the Army from Brooklyn, New York. He was killed in action on July 4th, 1944, and is buried in the Florence American Cemetery in Italy. He was decorated with the Bronze Star Medal, the Presidential Unit Citation, and the Purple Heart. We say Kaddish for Private Glickstein. We say Kaddish for all service personnel who were killed in action or who went missing in action and who have a yortzeit this week. Mourner's Kaddish, page 207. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrah chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayechon uv'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
May their memories be for a blessing, and let us say amen. Just a few announcements. First and foremost, Mazal Tov to Hayden, to her entire family, all of you friends and family who are here and who have joined us from home. And Yasher Koach to Hayden and to Jamie and to Michael Tischler for participating in our Torah reading. If you are looking for a COVID vaccine here in Washington State, feel free to help anyone who's looking also by making an appointment, calling or texting 425-780-5785. Just want to remind everyone that it is a halachic obligation to preserve life, to protect one's own life first and foremost, and then to protect the lives of other people. Our tradition believes strongly in the efficacy of science and medicine. All medical experts have great confidence in the safety of the COVID vaccines. And as many of you know, we're going to be reopening physically for in-person services beyond the bar bat mitzvah experience in July, date yet to be determined. We're going to be asking people to verify that they've been vaccinated. We want everyone to be safe and sound as they gather to worship and to be together in community. So if you haven't gotten a shot yet, please get a shot. Virtual Swedish summer run and walk for ovarian cancer research is going to take place on Sunday, July 11th. Proceeds will support life-saving work of the Rifkin Center. You can donate to our HNT athletes team at h-nt.org/summer run or by calling the main office. We are going to conclude our service this morning as we turn to Adon Olam, page 211.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nira Le'et Nasa V'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu haya ve'hu hover Ve'hu yeh b'tifara Ve'hu yeh b'tifara Ve'hu echad v'yen sheni Le'am shilo le'achbira Ve'li reshit ve'li tachlit Ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra Ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra Ve'hu eli ve'chai go'ali Ve'tzur chavli be'etzara Ve'hu nisi umanos li Menat kosi b'yom ekra Menat kosi b'yom ekra Ve'yado avkid ruchi be'et ishan ve'aira Ve'im ruchi geviyati Adonai li ve'lo ira
Adonai li velo ira.
Please rise for Kiddush.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו סברי.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Go ahead. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Yasher koach.
Shabbat shalom.
Beautifully done.